And a very good afternoon, everyone. Jeremy here from strategic.com.sg with a market recap for the S&P 500 on the trading week ending 20th of May 2022. After my last video on the pullback on Nasdaq, that was 2 weeks back, and now the same thing is happening to the S&P 500. So you can see that the support at 3919 has been broken, and essentially a short signal has been observed, and you can actually see that we will expect this level, which is the Kijun line of the Ichimoku cloud, the white line, to be tested at 3620, and thereafter we can expect the S&P 500 to find support at the SSSA line, which is this green line on the Ichimoku cloud, and then the SSSB line on the Ichimoku cloud as we move along the trading months ahead. If you do look at the NASDAQ, it is pretty similar, where you'll be able to see on the NASDAQ that yes, we have actually penetrated the 12115 Kijun after the short signal has been issued, and it closed around the 11836 level on Friday evening, Saturday morning. And it seems that it may want to test that SSSA line on the NASDAQ as well as the B line. All right, so we're just waiting for the market to review itself. But what is more interesting is that if you do look at the Dow Jones, which is the third component of the US markets, we are still at the early stages where it has not broken the pivot support at 29784, and hence the Kijun line as well as the SSA and B lines will then come into play. So when all three indices have issued technical pullback signals, and we will just sit and probably observe what the market wants to do. So for you, what does it mean to you with a pullback in the S&P 500? For one, um, don't get all excited and anxious. This is not a bear market. Let's just sort of get into what a bear market is really like. So first of all, the bull market for the S&P 500 is still very much alive. All right. So since the long signal on the 1st of December 2010, post the Lehman crisis, we had a very, very nice uptrend from a level of almost 1,200 points. We have soared to almost 4,820 points in this bull market. And for the S&P 500, you had one pullback here, second pullback on the 2nd of March 2020. Of course, this is the pandemic low, which all of you have remembered very well. We had this beautiful pullback V shape, which started this super rally to all time highs, giving us almost 1,000 point profit with a long signal on the 1st of December 2020. And now simply we just have pullback number three. Simple as that. So this is not a bear market, number one. Number two, what does a bear market look like? All right. So essentially, once if the worst case scenario, the S&P 500 breaks that 3919, which it did yesterday, and breaks the Kijun support at 3620, it will then start to test this particular SSSA and SSSB lines. Now, if price action continues and breaks through this cloud line here and starts to trade below the Ichimoku cloud in a fashion like so, all right, and continues to move downwards, just like how the uptrend actually maintain its path above the cloud line, the bear market does the inverse. So just let me show you what I mean by that. So if you guys just look at the weekly charts, so this is what uh, the weekly charts is showing right now. Currently, the medium term trend or the weekly trend of the S&P 500. This is the weekly charts of the S&P 500, basically a short signal, and essentially price was not able to hold above the SSSB line, and it continues trading for 1 week, 2 week above the SSSB line, and then continues this particular trajectory and continues trading downwards. I would call this a start of a bear market. So we are not there in a bear market yet. All right, guys. So that's the first question that's frequently asked. Second question is, what do you do? When do you buy? So the first thing that you want to look out for in this particular pullback, I still call it a pullback on my blog. By the way, all levels are in my blog on quantstrategic.com.sg. You can refer to that blog on my website for the levels that will be repeated after this video. All right, so not a pullback. Secondly, so the first area that people want to look out for is the Kijun, which is 3620 level, which coincidentally is also your 50% retracement. All right, which is very normal for any pullbacks in a uptrending market. Now, if this 362 level holds and we start to bounce, we have to clear this Tenkan line, which is the fast moving average, which most of you know, and the S&P 500 has to continue upwards and break this overhead 5232 pivot for it to have a fresh long signal, just like the past two pullbacks, to continue on the upside trajectory. All right. I know it looks like quite a feat for now, but that's how it is technically. So that's scenario number one. Scenario number two is that this doesn't hold and we break through this particular Kijun and we start to test the SSSA and the B lines, just like what you have seen in the COVID crisis. We bounce very nicely at the base at about the 2200 levels, and we had a super uh, pumped up rally on steroids. And if we expect to see that, then we could see the next rally from the SSSB line, which is about the 3000 level at the moment. Now remember, the SSSB line is upsloping, so these values vary month to month. All right, so that's scenario number two. So those are the two entry points where you can probably buy. I would say the safest, if you look at the past two pullbacks, will be to buy near the SSSA line and the SSSB line in the first pullback in 2018, or this area, which is the SSSA line and B line in 2020. So moving on to 2022, this is probably the best buy zone. Number three scenario is the worst case scenario. If price continues down and breaks through the SSSA and B line and starts to trade in this region, I would say all bets are off. Now, you don't buy at this particular juncture because it is then confirmed a bear market. All right. So we are still far from that, and bear markets are usually triggered by black swan events. So we are just looking out for information. Now, I'm a technical guy, so I just let the chart speak for itself. And for you, if you're not a seasoned technical trader, I won't advise you to buy uh, all the sharp rallies. What I mean by sharp rallies is that when the market starts to pull back, you always have very, very sharp rallies, pullback sharp rallies. It's very, very symptomatic of all markets in a technical pullback. All right. So if you're not a technical trader, don't do that. So what should you do? Now, easiest way for you to actually know when to buy again is simply looking at your medium term charts. So if you look at your medium term charts, which is the weekly charts on the S&P 500, let's take the example from the COVID pullback. So if you look at the COVID pullback, you had it a very nice shot here, and the COVID pushed it down all the way to this 2200 level, and you have a very nice long signal on the weekly charts at 3168 on the 1st of June 2020. So if you do have this particular long signal with a nice blue uptrending line, you can start to buy at this area, which is at about 3200 level. All right, assuming that your day charts also has a long signal. And from there, you buy your position and you continue as long as this super trend line holds up. And you sell it when the super trend lines on the medium term charts on the weekly breaks as so. This particular journey would have made you 1,138 points simply by just using the medium term charts to buy a correction, pullback, and retracement move. All right. So it sounds simple, but you do need a lot of discipline because a lot of stocks are pulling back right now. A lot of stocks are already in bear markets. You don't know which one to go in. And if you do have any questions, please feel free to post it on this YouTube channel. So that's my explanation for now in terms of what's happening with the S&P 500. And as an overview, all the technical levels are in my blog, quantstrategic.com.sg. So on the long-term basis, we have a short signal right now. And on a medium-term basis, short signal has reached at that 3911 level, and what you want to see is a bounce either at 3620 and some support at the Ichimoku cloud, waiting for that medium term long signal again somewhere down the line for you to re-enter this bull market. All right, guys. So thanks a lot for watching, and please feel free to make any inquiries. I'm happy to answer all questions about the use of the Ichimoku cloud, as well as the multiple time frame analysis that I use: the monthly, the weekly, the daily, and the 4 hourly charts. Thanks very much, guys. Enjoy your weekend.